Dallas, Texas, or Denver, Colorado? Are you debating moving to either of these locations? Maybe you're hunting for a city solely based on the cost of living. Understandable, especially in today's market. Maybe it's the ability to actually enjoy the city and the surrounding areas itself. What good's a city if you can't have any fun in it? Or maybe it's a job relocation and you're just trying to get some more information before the move. But let's dive in and see which one's the better option for you. I'm willing to bet you're gonna be surprised by a couple of these comparisons. Let's get into it. So the first thing we have to talk about is either city's environment and climate. The main reason is because there is a huge difference here. And for some, depending on what you're used to, that can make living there kind of terrible if you're not prepared. So let's take a look at Denver first. Denver is located right at the far western edge of the Great Plains, quite literally right as you hit the Front Range. And no surprise, it does have a climate of dry, flat plains. But a beautiful aspect of Denver is that the entire western edge is lined with the beginnings of the Rocky Mountains, which is your everyday backdrop. Mind you, Denver's elevation is 5,280 feet. So when you first come here, if you're coming from sea level, the elevation is gonna get you. Weather-wise, Denver is actually kind of interesting. In the spring, the temperatures are usually mild, staying around the 60s to 70s. The rainiest time of year, I'd say, is between April and May, maybe even into June. But once we transition to the summer, it dries out. And that's gonna be very evident to you anywhere outside of the city, because you're gonna be able to watch the environment transition from that lush green found in the spring to the golden yellow of the summer. Temperature-wise here, it can get pretty hot. Throw in a few days above 100 degrees. But given the fact that Denver is dry, the temperature doesn't really hit as hard. So this dry heat can actually be pretty nice, especially in the summer evenings when the temperatures have fallen a bit, and it's perfect for a night out. Now in the fall and winter, Denver can get pretty cold. It does snow here a bit, but it doesn't stick around. We may get a few big storms that roll through, and that may dump half a foot or more snow. But I'd argue for most snowfall, it's gone within the day to at most a few days. Now, one final thing about the Denver area is that this part of Colorado is sunny. A lot. It is very common year-round to have a large percentage of the week being a sunny day. Now for Dallas, being in northern Texas, it's still technically part of the Great Plains, but being farther east and south compared to Denver, in Dallas, it's large, flat, rolling hills. Emphasis on flat. The biggest difference, I'd argue, up front between Dallas and Denver is the obvious absence of any significant mountains. Now, I'll stress this more in another section, because that does make an impact on what you can do here. But Dallas and the surrounding areas are more or less flat. Now, the city has been described as having a humid subtropical climate, meaning the summers are hot and the winters are mild. The average temperature here in the summers are gonna be in the 90s, with a lot of reported days over 100 degrees. A silver lining though is that actually the summers aren't that humid compared to the spring and fall, but I wouldn't argue it's in the same league as Denver. Also, there aren't a lot of rainy days in the summer, so it's going to be consistently hot. Now, talking about spring and fall, a lot of people have reported it is wonderful in Dallas. The temperature range is from the mid 70s to 80s, with it never really getting cooler than the mid 50s. And then for the wintertime, as I said before, it's mild. There's some days below freezing here, but if we're comparing it to Denver, it's a lot less. But in Dallas, the highs are gonna be in the 50s and the lows are gonna be in the 30s. And it does snow here a little bit. Don't expect anything to last. So if you're looking to live where the winters are mild, I'd have to recommend Dallas. But with Denver, even though it's technically colder, the consistent sunshine and dry air, I'd argue, actually makes it better. I would say that the pro of Denver in this context is that yes, the winters are cold, but with the aridity across the board, the spring, summer, and falls are much more enjoyable. Now let's talk about the different activities that you can find specific to either city. Plus, we'll focus on some of the things you can do nearby, because that is important. So for Denver, the first thing I want to highlight are the breweries. Colorado has over 440 breweries total in the state, making it number 5 for states with the most breweries. Now, in Colorado, most of the breweries are going to be found in the Denver metro area. One notable that you're going to be familiar with is Coors Brewery, which is in Golden, Colorado on the western side of the city. But Denver has so many breweries you can go and visit, as well as doing tons of organized tours. So if you're a fan of craft brew, you're going to love Colorado. But also, if you're not aware, Colorado, at least along the Front Range, is huge into the outdoors. Honestly, everything west of Denver is also into the outdoors. As a result, a lot of big notable attractions are gonna be incorporated one way or another with the Front Range. One dimension is the Red Rocks Park and Amphitheater, which is located on the western side of Denver and has you standing in between unbelievable sandstone formations. There is a live event here practically every day, if not twice a day sometimes in the summer. It's a beautiful location location to visit and enjoy, especially during the spring and summer. Then we have dozens more outdoor locations. Golf is very common here, no surprise in any city, but the added bonus of having the Front Range in the backdrop, I would argue, makes it a bit better. Not to mention there are a few locations in the Denver area to go and enjoy some water sports. You have the Cherry Creek Reservoir, the Chatfield State Park to the south, as well as a bit farther north, the Boulder Reservoir up in Boulder County. All great options to enjoy a beautiful day on the water. Then you have the Front Range and all the hiking, biking, camping, snowboarding, and skiing opportunities that you can think of. It's just an hour plus drive away from Denver itself, depending on where you're going, and you have basically the entire state at your fingertips. Now let's switch over to Dallas. One thing that stands out as being unique to Dallas is that it has been ranked the #1 best city for the arts in America. Also technically for having the largest contiguous art scene. There are a ton of different buildings to explore here, from the Dallas Museum of Art, the Nasher Sculpture Center, Crow Museum of Asian Art, and the Winspear Opera House, to name a few. Dallas seems to take the lead in the arts and culture. But trying to compare this to Denver, it's going to be a bit hard, because without pulling any punches, a lot of the activities in Dallas are city focused. Understandably so, we are comparing the cities here. The nightlife scene, museums, amusement parks, or just regular parks, all of which you can find in Dallas, you more or less can find an alternative in Denver. But once you go outside of Dallas, I'd say it's not as impressive. But trying to compare Dallas's outdoor experience to Denver's, there's really no comparison. Dallas does have a lot more lakes surrounding the city, which definitely outperforms Denver. Lake Lewisville to the north and Lake Grapevine to the northwest are two excellent and close locations to go and enjoy the water. It can be a great spot for some water skiing, kayaking, or swimming, and it'll definitely keep you cool during those hot summer months. But looking at the parks and nature that surround Dallas, it's just not comparable. And I do think this has to do with the overall environment of where Dallas is. If you're not really that interested in a city with a large outdoor presence, then this entire subject is meaningless to you. But if you are, and you love the idea of being able to exist in a city, but also get out of the city and out into the country, I'd have to say Denver's a better choice. So now let's cover cost of living, because at the end of the day, all the stuff we've talked about is meaningless if you can't actually afford to live there. Well, if we focus on the day-to-day cost, Denver, Colorado is about 6% higher than Dallas. But let's break this down. Food costs are about 7% higher in Denver, but entertainment costs are about 2% lower. And then healthcare is about 10% lower in Denver. But now let's talk housing. So rent-wise, average rent across the board in Denver is about $2,250 a month, compared to Dallas, Texas at $2,000 a month. For one-bedroom apartments, rent in Denver is $1,500 a month. In Dallas, Texas, it's $1,200 a month on average. So rent is roughly 12% less in Dallas, or 20% if you're looking for a one-bed. For cost of single-family homes, Denver, Colorado's median single-family home price is roughly $670,000, compared to Dallas's $511,000. So Dallas is 24% less expensive than Denver. That can be a huge difference, especially in today's market with higher interest rates. But if we transition to taxes now, let's first look at income taxes. Obviously, for federal and FICA, they're going to be the same. So let's just focus at the state level. So in Colorado, you're going to be paying a 4.4% flat tax rate. And this is compared to the 0% tax rate in Dallas. That is a big plus for Texas, no state income tax. So if we use a $75,000 income for an example, you'd be paying an extra $2,691 in state taxes if you're living in Denver. So you're saving a little over $2,500 in Dallas. But if we look at sales tax, it gets a bit more interesting. So Colorado levies a 2.9% state sales tax. Denver's average sales tax, though, is about 8% total, with the biggest levies coming from individual suburbs surrounding the area. The southern suburbs do have a slightly smaller sales tax on average, though. Now for Texas, the state levies a 6.25% sales tax. So no income tax, but an almost 4% higher sales tax than Colorado. That's how they get you. And then most of Dallas is in an area totaling 8.25% total sales tax. Mind you, this does include the state tax. So combining everything, you're paying less in overall taxes in Dallas, generally. And the overall cost of living and home prices are more affordable. This can be a huge point, comment on whether you're thinking Denver or Dallas is the better choice, especially if affordability is at the top of your list. Have you decided which one's the winner? Both, I'd argue, have really great aspects to them that might make you consider a move. If you've been leaning at all though towards Denver due to the outdoors and climate, I don't blame you. And I assure you there are affordable options here. You just have to know where to look. So check out some of my videos that highlight a bit more about the city. From there, I'd advise diving into some of my content on some individual suburbs and seeing which one might be the best fit. This is Life in the Front Range. I'll see you there.